welcome back to the Modern Hippie Girl podcast. We're on episode 2. This is crazy. The fact that I have a podcast is just insane. I'm so excited that I do because I think it is needed for women to hear this kind of information. And if it has to be me, I'm willing to do it. So let's get into it. Today's episode, we are going to talk all about stress management and how it is the number one reason why we have hormonal imbalance as women and teens. We can't dismiss the fact that we are seeing girls start their periods younger and younger and younger, go through puberty younger, and develop younger. There's a reason for that. It's not just coincidental. So we will talk about that. And we will discuss a couple different things that you guys can do right now to monitor your stress and see where you lie, what's going on, how your body's feeling with everything you got going on. I think that's very, very telling once you see the numbers, exactly where you stand, because it wasn't until I saw the numbers that I was like, well, yeah, I can totally see why I am struggling so hard. My cortisol levels are literally through the roof, and we'll talk about the app that I use in a second, but I mean, I was literally at the highest rates that you could get, which isn't a good thing. You want to be at the lowest. And I'm sorry, I was at the lowest, which means you have like 0, you're like depleted. And I wanted to be at the highest, which means you have all the good things, all the stress resiliency that you need. Okay, so if you guys don't know me, which some of you may not, I have a 4 and a 5-year-old and 2 boys. Both of them have autism, and it's a lot. I don't want to cry. It's a lot. And I could have never, ever thought that this was going to happen. I feel like I tried to do all the things during my pregnancy to do the right things. Being a holistic health coach for 10 years, I did so much stuff during my pregnancies, you guys. I ate clean. I stopped doing my hair. I stopped doing my nails. I already was using non-toxic makeup, so I didn't have to change anything there. I was prioritizing breath work, and I was trying to take down my toxic load as much as possible, because if you guys don't know this, when babies are born, if you were to take the umbilical cord and test it for toxins, the average umbilical cord tests positive for over 285 different toxins, which means that we are taking on a lot of toxins while we are pregnant, from what we're eating, the environment, what we're putting on our skin, what we're washing our clothes with, what we're cleaning with. And it's not good. It is a determining factor for what your child's childhood looks like and their health looks like. And so I knew this. And so I really, really, really tried my hardest to make sure that that toxic number was very low when I had the boys, so that I could produce the healthiest babies that I possibly could. Both babies were healthy. They were big, almost 9 pounds each, and I'm 5'2", so that was its own thing. But the reason that I go into this is because I really had a different idea of what was going to happen in motherhood. And so I was not mentally prepared for how stressed out I was going to be as a mother. And I have an amazing husband, you guys. He is so hands-on. I mean, I could not ask for a better partner in this. He just You don't even have to ask him. Changing diapers, putting boys to sleep. He would literally sleep. My son would not sleep in his crib or in his bassinet. And my husband would literally hold him in the rocking chair in the nursery all night long so that he could sleep, because he wouldn't sleep through the night. And that so I could sleep through the night. I had all the support. I had a doula, I had a nanny, I had a lot of support, but it was still so hard. And it sounds weird saying that back, but at the time I didn't realize that the way that they acted wasn't normal, because I was a first-time mom. I didn't realize that their outbursts and their mood changes and things were all symptoms of autism. I just thought they were kids, they were toddlers, they were emotional, And so my youngest son actually got diagnosed first. He was perfectly normal, sweetest, kindest, happiest baby on the planet. Talking, his first word was dinosaur. Counting to 20 at like 14, 15 months. So smart. And then at about 26 months, everything changed. He just stopped looking us in the eye, stopped talking, stopped responding. And before that, I could lift up a figurine of a dinosaur and be like, what's this? And be like, dinosaur. What's this? A tiger. He would walk into a room and be like, oh, look, pumpkin. Or, everything was all firing on all cylinders, and then it just stopped. My second son my first son got diagnosed second, and he only got diagnosed because we saw so many doctors and did so many evaluations for my youngest son that we started to realize that my oldest son actually had it too, but they have it exact opposite. My point being, since we're talking about stress in this episode, was that I was overwhelmed by all the things that we had to do to navigate this world. If you don't know the autism world, it is a lot. TACA really helps a lot, but it's a group that you can go to and they will help you out with a lot of stuff. But I didn't realize how stressed out I was about it, because I was just going with the flow. I knew that motherhood was stressful. I knew that, these were all things that were additional, stressors on my life, but I just was like, this is life. Like, what am I supposed to do? As they got older, all the therapy started. And so on a typical day, my children were in therapy for about 5 hours a day. Driving here, driving there, meltdowns, not sleeping, not eating. There was just so much happening that I was just so stressed out, and I just couldn't keep it together. I pride myself as being a type A person who always has their ducks in a row, and I was drowning. And so it's no surprise that when I was struggling, when I was trying to get back to feeling like myself again a few years ago, that nothing was happening, because my cortisol was through the roof, because our doula was only there for the first month that the boys were born. We had a nanny up until 2 months before my youngest son started showing symptoms of having autism. So about 2 years old, which I do think had a lot to do with triggering it. I feel like, because he was with that nanny from 4 months old till 2 years old. And I feel like that really pulled it out of him, because he lost somebody that was caring for him every day. I work from home, So I was there all day long with my kids, but I had a nanny that was there helping us out. So it was just so much to then shift gears and take everything on by ourselves. And I'm not, telling this story so that you guys are obviously not going to feel bad that I had a nanny and then I didn't anymore. But at that time, I had a business where I could afford one. And so why not have another set of hands? Because my family doesn't live close and I did not have extra help and support. I needed some sort of a village. And so if I have to pay for it, I guess I have to pay for it. Long story longer, when I had to take over to take care of the kids by myself, it was a lot. I didn't know how to navigate that world by myself. So my cortisol levels were through the roof. I remember seeing this ad for this app called the Well Tori app. And I'll put the link in the comments if you want to actually get this app after listening to this episode. I have a discount code that you can use. It was a game changer. Game changer. So it's a app that goes on your watch and it's going to monitor like everything about your health. And because this is if you're an Apple person, because the health app is always working on your phone. And so it's always, taking readings. They take all that information and they put it into the Welltory app. And then they basically tell you the state of your health right then and there. Mine was crap. It was like, how are you still alive, basically? So it basically came back and said, we're going to suggest this app. We're going to suggest you do this. Here's some articles to read to help you with this that you're struggling with. Here's some other things that you can do and prioritize and focus on. And so I did, because I was like, wow, how am I alive right now? Like of course I'm struggling. Like I am a shell of a person trying to take on 2 autistic toddlers and I have no support and I need to get myself back into a good place so I can be the best for them. So one of those apps was the stress monitor app that goes on your Apple Watch. That app was how I brought my cortisol levels down and lost 50 pounds. When I first started using the stress monitor app, it was telling me that my stress levels were through the roof. I mean, it would literally say, you need to sit down and do some breath work because you are on your way to having a stroke or a heart attack. When I got that reading, I listened, because that's crazy to be 40 and be on your way to having a heart attack. It's not like I was this person that lived this like awful life. I was a health coach trying to do all the right things. And if my body was in that state, like that's really bad. So I would wear the app on my watch and I would constantly get these readings. And then it would tell me, okay, you got a high stress reading. So we need to focus on bringing you out of fight or flight mode and back into rest and digest. And so there's another app that works with your watch. It is put on everybody's watch. You don't have to download it, called the mindfulness app. I suggest putting the stress monitor app and the mindfulness app on your watch face, because then you can see in real time where your stress levels are at. And you can also, based on your last reading, and you can also use the mindfulness app whenever you need to. So here's how it would go. I would get a stress reading. They would have tiers, like 1, 2, 3, 4. Good, great, watch out, pay attention, and you need to sit down. And I was always getting the you need to sit down. So when I would get the 2 that are bad, I would open up my mindfulness app on my watch, and it has a couple different options. I would go to breathe, and it would basically do 1 minute. You can change it if you want to do more than 1 minute, but I would do 1 minute of guided breath work. And so how it would work, and we'll put the video on here, but The watch will tap on your wrist to inhale. And when it stops tapping, that means exhale until it starts tapping again. It'll do that for a minute in its own sequence to calm your nervous system. After you are done with your breath work, open up the stress monitor app again, and it will take another reading to tell you in real time how much your stress levels have come down. You guys, if you can continue to do this and you can stay on top of it, you are in real time retraining your nervous system to get out of fight or flight mode, go back into rest and digest, build stress resiliency, bring your cortisol levels down, and release the weight that is stuck because you are in a high cortisol state, because you're in fight or flight mode. That is what I concentrated on during my journey that helped my body finally say, yes, we are going to lose this weight. So I highly recommend those two apps. If you are not an Apple user, you don't have an Apple phone, there is an app called PulseBit, which you can also use on your Apple device if you don't have an Apple Watch. It basically is set up so that you put your finger on the top camera lens of your phone. I don't know what Androids look, but you put your finger on it and it reads your pulses through your fingertip. It'll tell you right then, what your stress reading is. The only thing with that is that you have to do it yourself. Whereas if you're wearing the watch, it does it and you don't have to do anything. The stress monitor app will take your stress readings throughout the day. It's not like constantly sending you readings. It's just randomly taking them throughout the day and sending you your results. When you get the bad results, you do the breath work and so on and so forth. After I did this, I would say it was about a month of me constantly doing it every time I get a high stress reading. And I wasn't getting them every single time, but it was majority of the time. And I didn't do breath work every single time, but I did it majority of the time. Okay, like I said, it was trial and error. I was trying to figure it out. But the more I saw that it was working, the more I was paying attention, the more I was making a priority to actually do it. It's a minute. It's 1 minute. You guys can do it. And if your levels did not come down to a good place, add 1 more minute. I've never had to do more than 2 minutes before it took me back to a good place. So I would say it was about a month before I started getting good reading after good reading after good reading after good reading. And then my watch was telling me, you are doing great. You had this stressful situation happen, and normally your levels would have been here, your readings would have been here, but instead they were here. Like, this is showing that your nervous system is actually getting back on track. Keep up the good work. I needed that kind of information in order to keep going. Because before that, doing trial and error, I was like, is what I'm doing effective? Do I feel better? Kind of, but I don't know. Like, it's kind of okay. But I needed to see in real time that what I was doing was working. When that information was taken, it then sends it to the Weltery app, the main hub, and then all of your other readings start to change. And then it's giving you all this other information of, your heart, the condition of your heart, your gut, like everything else that's going on in your body. And then I got to see that other things were doing better. And I was like, okay, now I know that what I'm doing is effective and I need to keep going. The other app, which we'll talk about in the sleep episode, that I got was the Sleep Watch app. And I'm not somebody that wears my watch when I sleep. I know some people do, but I do not. This is just something really cool that you can do for, 3 or 4 nights. It's just going to monitor your sleep through the night and tell you what happens while you're sleeping. Oh my gosh, it was so like telling to know like how much you actually get REM sleep, how many times through the night you wake up, how many times, if you have sleep apnea, how many times you stopped breathing. Oh my gosh, it was so informative and so enlightening, and it was such a game changer. And we will talk about this in the sleep episode, but you can do all the things. Eat right, exercise, monitor your blood sugar, monitor your breath work, like get your gut back in check. But if you do not get your sleep back on track and you do not recalibrate your circadian rhythm and get your melatonin to start firing on all cylinders, you are not going to keep your results that you just work so hard for. So we will talk about that in the sleep episode. Sleep is so important, and we will talk about why and what happens when you sleep and how it heals your body when you're sleeping. It's insane. Are you sick and tired of feeling sick and tired? The Modern Hippie Girl Reset is a 3-phase holistic wellness program designed to help women reconnect with their bodies and create real, lasting health from the inside out. In this program, you'll get precise meal plans, hormone and gut healing protocols, stress management tools, blood sugar balancing tips, and an extensive holistic health education to help you keep your results for life. Plus, there's optional personalized coaching to support you every step of the way. If you've been feeling off, overwhelmed, or stuck, this is how we'll get back to feeling like your best self again. Check out all of our programs at modernhippiegirlwellness.com. The Weltery app, the sleep app, the stress app, the mindfulness app, all those together told me so much. And I know it sounds like a lot, but it's not like I had to use these things forever, right? I was using them for a means to an end. I needed to know what I was doing, if it was working or not. Because like I said, I was doing trial and error for so long. I was over it. I needed to figure out like what to focus on to keep moving forward and, get to my goal in the end. And so these were telling me what was working. You guys, our cortisol is one of the number one hormones that most women have out of whack first, and is triggering all of their other hormones to be out of whack. So it goes like cortisol first, and then you start to have high estrogen. And ladies, if you have high estrogen, you're more susceptible to getting breast cancer. It is important to get your estrogen back to a good place. And most of the time, if you have high estrogen, you probably don't have enough testosterone, and then you don't have enough progesterone, and you are just in an awful cycle. So we'll obviously talk about hormones in an episode, but getting your cortisol into a good place right now will change everything. Because like I said in my first episode, if one hormone is out of whack, they're all out of whack. But if you start to get your main one that's out of whack the most on track, they all start to fall back in line, because that was the one that was triggering all the other ones. Does that make sense? So finding out what is the biggest, one that's causing all the issues is key. So if your stress levels on your watch are telling you that your stress is through the roof, and the other thing that was really cool is that it was telling me about things that were triggering me that I didn't even know were triggering me. And then I was getting stress readings when I wasn't even feeling stressed. That was crazy, because I would just be sitting there and I would get a stress reading and I'm like, what? It's telling me to sit down and do some breath work? Are you kidding me? Like, I am sitting on the couch. How can I possibly be stressed out right now? It turns out, like I said in my last episode, if you are drinking alcohol before you go to bed, yes, it can bring your stress levels down in the moment. But it has a delayed reaction. So the next day, you are going to have a stress reaction for A, things that aren't even triggering you, B, things that kind of would have triggered you, but it shouldn't have been that much of a spike in your cortisol. And then if you are somebody who is in chronic fight or flight mode, it is going to just keep you there longer and be that much harder to build up your stress resiliency again. So that was one of the reasons I stopped drinking, because I wanted to see how much my stress levels changed the next day when I was getting all these like crap readings, when even though I wasn't stressed and in a stressful situation, because I was drinking the night before. And honestly, once I stopped drinking, I stopped getting those readings the next day. It all made sense. And like I said, I had a lot of mental things that I was, working on and had a big shift in from taking those mental wellness pills, which we will talk about those as well. So if you guys want to grab them, you can. But when I decided I didn't even decide. I can't even say that. When I stopped drinking, it was literally because I was in a mental place where I did not need to. I no longer needed that release at the end of the day to say, oh, that was a hard day. Even though it was a hard day, I didn't need that because I was mentally in a better place and my stress reactions weren't the way that they were before. So I was able to I just didn't even think about it. Before it was like an automatic 5 o'clock, pour the wine. When I was getting better mentally and my cortisol levels were coming down, the thought of wine never even came into my brain. And I remember it being like a week and a half and I hadn't drank wine. And I was like, because my husband said, do you want wine? I'm going to the store. And I was like, oh. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm like, I haven't even had wine in like a week and a half. I didn't even think about that. I stopped drinking and I didn't even mean to. I just didn't want it anymore. I just didn't care. But please believe, when I was into a better place and I lost weight and I felt so much better, please believe I started having cocktails again because I love my wine. But I quickly fell back into feeling like crap again. And then I decided this isn't worth it. So I don't drink anymore, but that's a whole nother episode. With all this change and my cortisol levels coming down, obviously the scale was the first thing that was showing me that like my cortisol levels were coming down, right? Because like I said, the scale just kept going down, like 10 pounds a month, 10 pounds a month. My inflammation was going down. My joint pain was going away. I wasn't inflamed anymore. I didn't feel like I was having like all of this like puffiness. One of the biggest signs that you have high cortisol is having puffy cheeks, like at the bottom of your face, like chipmunk cheeks. I didn't know that. And honestly, when I look back at pictures of myself when I was 50 pounds heavier, I was like, oh my God. Yeah, hello. It was clear as day. My face was so chunky and inflamed and not okay. That was from alcohol and that was from high cortisol. And it makes so much sense that you take it away and it goes away. But that is a sign that you have high cortisol, which I didn't know. Having dark circles under your eyes and having gut health issues, all of those things is your body telling you that you are super stressed out. So one thing I learned that I did not know is that when your body is in fight or flight mode, it thinks it's running from a tiger, right? I think we've all heard this. We know this. But the reason I bring this up is because there's another layer to it. So when you are in fight or flight mode, especially chronic fight or flight mode, if your body thinks it's running from a tiger, it is going to send all of your energy to your extremities so that you can run from the tiger, right? Which means in turn that it is not going to send the energy to your gut to digest your food because, hello, why do we need to digest our food if we're about to die being eaten by a tiger? And secondly, it's going to send no energy to your reproductive system because why do we think that we're going to make a baby if we are about to die? There's no reason to procreate, or there's no way we can procreate because we're about to die. So we see this over and over and over again. Women have really bad digestion systems, right? We have IBS, Crohn's disease, leaky gut, all kinds of stomach issues. And then infertility rates are through the roof. We are so infertile, myself included. I had to use a fertility doctor to have my first son, but I didn't know what was triggering it, and I didn't know how to fix it. I knew I had PCOS. I knew I was 40. I knew my periods weren't on point. I knew I wasn't ovulating, but I did not know how to get that all back on track. So bringing your cortisol levels down and managing your stress and balancing your nervous system is going to help your gut be able to heal. And we'll talk about gut microbiome and your gut health and how to heal your gut in another episode. And then it's also going to help with your reproductive system. It's going to help to get your periods back on track, get your ovulation back on track, help with PCOS, all of that stuff. It makes sense, right? I just didn't know. There is a root cause for everything. So if you are somebody who is struggling with gut health or infertility or PCOS, getting your stress levels under control is going to be powerful for you. Using the stress monitor app, using the Weltery app is going to be a game changer, okay? There's also other things you can do, which we will talk about in the reproductive hormone episode, because I feel like this is key, especially for so many women who've been on birth control for so long and then are trying to have a baby and struggling and not understanding why. And then they're doing all these things with a fertility doctor and things are still not working. We need to talk about it because there are things that they're not addressing that absolutely need to be the first things that we address, because if those things aren't helping, how are the other things going to help? You need to do the groundwork first. Like I said, stress management is so, so, so important. I don't think I can stress this enough. I'm going to talk about stress management so much during this podcast because it is something that is triggering everything to be off. And you will see, once you get it back to a good place, everything starts to get better. It's amazing. So that's all I'm going to talk about today for stress. I just wanted to give you guys some tips and tricks that you can do right now and think about right now to implement into your life. And please, please, please write in the comments about things that you've tried, how they've helped you, what you've seen as a change. I would love to hear it. I am always just a message away. You can DM me, you can email me at themodernhippiegirl@gmail.com. I am here to support and help you all. If you are looking for more guidance, you can do the Modern Hippie Girl Reset, and we can tackle all of this stuff at once and get you guys feeling to your best. I can't believe we're already on episode 2. This is nuts. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening. I'm sorry if my voice is annoying. I try my hardest not to make it sound like a high-pitched squeaky monkey, but it is what it is. I have to embrace it. All right. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye.